My name is Lydia, and I'm 35 years old. As I stand in my spacious kitchen this morning preparing breakfast for my 10-year-old daughter Emma before school, I can't help but smile at how far we've come. The marble countertops gleam under the soft lighting, and through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I can see our perfectly manicured garden and the BMW sitting in our 3-car garage. 10 years ago, I was a struggling single mother living in a cramped studio apartment, working 2 jobs just to keep us afloat. Before I share this story with you, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Please hit that like button if you believe that karma always comes at the perfect time, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories about single mothers who built empires from nothing. Now let me take you back 11 years when I was still a naive young woman who believed in true love and happy endings. 11 years ago, I was 24 and madly in love with Nathan Brooks, a 28-year-old charming man from one of the wealthiest families in our town. His parents owned Brooks Automotive, a successful chain of car dealerships that had been in the family for 3 generations. We had just gotten married 6 months earlier, and life seemed perfect in our cozy 2-bedroom apartment. Nathan worked for the family business handling sales and customer relations, while I had a steady job as a teller at First National Bank. I had dreams of eventually opening my own financial consulting firm, and Nathan always said he believed in my ambitions. Those early days were filled with late-night conversations about our future weekend trips to nearby lakes and quiet dinners where we planned everything from baby names to retirement destinations. When I found out I was pregnant with Emma, Nathan's reaction was everything I had hoped for. He spun me around the living room, tears in his eyes, talking about teaching his son or daughter everything about cars and business. We spent hours picking out cribs and painting the nursery a soft yellow since we wanted to be surprised about the gender. But somewhere around my 4th month of pregnancy, things began to shift. Nathan started coming home later from work, explaining that he needed to network more for the family business. His phone calls became hushed conversations he'd take in the other room. When I asked about it, he'd brush off my concerns with a quick kiss and promises that everything was fine. Our first Thanksgiving with the Brooks family should have been a celebration. I was 6 months pregnant, glowing with excitement about introducing myself properly to his extended family. I had spent days preparing my grandmother's famous sweet potato casserole, hoping to make a good impression. The moment we walked into Patricia Brooks's immaculate dining room, I knew something was wrong. Nathan's mother gave me a polite but cold smile, asking surface-level questions about my pregnancy while barely making eye contact. Richard Brooks, Nathan's father, actually forgot my name twice during dinner, calling me Laura and then Linda before Nathan finally corrected him. But what hurt most was when Nathan's younger sister Stephanie openly complained to her cousin about the bank girl Nathan married, loud enough for me to hear. Throughout the entire evening, Nathan said nothing. He didn't defend me when Stephanie made snide comments about my dress being discount store chic. He didn't correct his father when he asked if I planned to keep working at that little job after the baby came. He just sat there eating his turkey and nodding along with conversations that excluded me entirely. On the drive home, finally confronted him about his family's behavior and his failure to stand up for me. Nathan sighed heavily and told me I was being overly sensitive and that his family just needed time to warm up to me. He said pregnancy hormones were making me paranoid and that I should try harder to fit in with them. That night, while Nathan was in the shower, his phone buzzed with a text message. The preview showed a contact saved as A with a message that read, "Can't wait to see you tomorrow night." My heart sank as I realized my husband was texting someone at 11:30 at night, someone whose identity he felt the need to hide from his pregnant wife. I told myself it was probably work-related, maybe a client whose name started with A. But deep down, a seed of doubt had been planted, and it would only grow larger in the months to come. Emma Catherine Brooks was born on a beautiful March morning, weighing 7 pounds and 2 ounces, with the most stunning blue eyes I had ever seen. She was perfect in every way, with Nathan's distinctive eye color and my stubborn chin. I had never felt love so pure and overwhelming as I did holding my daughter for the first time. Nathan was supposed to be there for the delivery, but he arrived 3 hours late, explaining that there had been a crisis at one of the dealerships that required his immediate attention. When he finally showed up, he seemed distracted, checking his phone constantly and stepping out to take calls every few minutes. Even during those precious first moments with our daughter, I felt like I was sharing him with someone else. The first week at home with Emma was a blur of sleepless nights, endless feedings, and constant diaper changes. I had expected Nathan to help to share in those sweet midnight moments when Emma would finally drift off to sleep in our arms. Instead, he claimed he needed his rest for work and moved to the guest bedroom temporarily so the baby wouldn't wake him. When Emma cried at 2 in the morning, I was the one stumbling out of bed to comfort her. When she needed diaper changes, Nathan would suddenly remember urgent emails he had to send. He'd watch me struggle with bottles and burping cloths, claiming he wasn't good with baby stuff, and that I was naturally better at it. His phone habits became even more secretive. He'd flip it face down whenever I walked into a room, and he started taking long showers where I could hear him talking in hushed tones. When I asked who he was talking to, he'd say it was work calls he couldn't take in front of the baby because they were too loud. 3 months after Emma was born, I found a restaurant receipt in Nathan's jacket pocket while doing laundry. It was from Chez Laurent, an upscale French restaurant downtown that we had never been to together. The bill showed 2 champagne glasses, lobster thermidor for 2, and a chocolate soufflé for dessert. The total was over $300. That same night, Nathan had told me he was working late on inventory reports and had grabbed a sandwich from the office vending machine. When I confronted him about the receipt, Nathan exploded with anger. He accused me of going through his things like a crazy person and said that postpartum hormones were making me paranoid and irrational. He claimed the dinner was with a major client who was considering buying a fleet of vehicles and that he couldn't bring me along because it was a business meeting. When I asked why he hadn't mentioned it, he said he didn't think he needed to report every work dinner to his wife. Meanwhile, the Brooks family continued to treat Emma and me like we didn't exist. Patricia had yet to visit her granddaughter despite living only 20 minutes away. When Emma was 3 months old, I called to invite them to a small birthday celebration, hoping that seeing Emma might soften their hearts. Patricia politely declined, saying she had a charity board meeting that couldn't be rescheduled. Richard Brooks had still never held his granddaughter. When I brought Emma to the dealership once to surprise Nathan during lunch, his father walked right past us without acknowledgement, apparently not recognizing his own son's wife and child. Our financial situation was becoming increasingly strained. I had to quit my job at the bank to care for Emma full-time, and Nathan had mysteriously reduced the amount he was contributing to our household expenses. When I asked why our account was running low, he said the business was going through a slow period and that we needed to tighten our belts. Then came the night that shattered my world completely. I was walking Emma around our neighborhood in her stroller, trying to get her to fall asleep, when I saw Nathan's distinctive black Mustang parked outside Morrison's Bistro. Through the large front windows, I could see him at a corner table with a beautiful blonde woman. As I watched in shock, he reached across the table to hold her hand, then leaned in to kiss her tenderly. I stood there for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes, holding my sleeping daughter while watching my husband be intimate with another woman. When they stood to leave, I quickly walked away, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might wake Emma. That night, after Nathan came home smelling like perfume and claiming he'd been at a late business dinner, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. I finally had to admit to myself that my marriage was over and that I was essentially raising Emma alone while being married to a man who had already moved on with someone else. I couldn't live in denial anymore. The next morning, while Nathan was at work and Emma was napping, I made the hardest phone call of my life. I hired Janet Pierce, a private investigator who specialized in infidelity cases. The retainer fee of $1,500 was money we couldn't afford, but I needed to know the truth. Janet's findings arrived in a manila envelope exactly 1 week later. The woman's name was Amanda Clearwater, 26 years old, and she worked as a marketing assistant at Brooks Automotive. The relationship had been going on for 8 months, which meant Nathan had been cheating on me since I was 6 months pregnant with Emma. The photos were devastating but undeniable. Nathan and Amanda at various restaurants holding hands in parking lots, kissing outside her apartment building. The most painful image was from a ski resort in Aspen, dated just 2 weeks after Emma was born. While I was home alone with a newborn, learning to breastfeed and change diapers, my husband was on a romantic vacation with his girlfriend. The final piece of evidence was a purchase receipt showing that Nathan had bought Amanda a brand new Lexus ES from the family dealership, complete with a red bow and a card that read, "For my beautiful girl, with all my love, Nathan." When I confronted Nathan with the evidence spread across our kitchen table, he didn't even try to deny it. Instead, he actually seemed relieved that his secret was finally out in the open. He sat down heavily in his chair and told me he had been wanting to have this conversation for months. "I'm sorry, Lydia, but I can't pretend anymore," he said, not even glancing at the photos. "Amanda understands me in ways you never could. She doesn't question everything I do or make me feel guilty for working hard. She appreciates the lifestyle I can provide without constantly worrying about money or wanting to change me. He told me that Amanda made him feel young and successful again, while I made him feel trapped and criticized. He said our marriage had been a mistake from the beginning, but that he'd tried to make it work when Emma came along. Now, however, he realized that staying together for the baby would only make all three of us miserable. Nathan moved out of our apartment that very weekend, taking only his clothes and personal items. He left behind the crib he'd helped me assemble, the rocking chair, where I nursed Emma every night, and all the baby items we'd bought together with such hope and excitement. The divorce proceedings were brutal and humiliating. The Brooks family hired Harrison and Associates, the most expensive family law firm in the state, while I had to rely on a legal aid attorney who was handling 12 other cases simultaneously. Nathan's lawyers painted me as an unstable new mother suffering from postpartum depression who was unfit for full custody. They hired a private investigator to follow me around, documenting every time I looked tired or stressed while grocery shopping with Emma. They questioned every phone call I made, every friend I visited, every moment I wasn't smiling and acting like the perfect mother. Meanwhile, Nathan was seeking joint custody, but wanted to pay minimal child support, claiming his income was variable due to the nature of sales work. The most painful part was watching Amanda seamlessly slip into the life that had been stolen from me. She was immediately welcomed into the Brooks family with open arms. Patricia Brooks, who had never shown any interest in meeting her granddaughter, was suddenly hosting Sunday brunches, where Amanda was the guest of honor. Stephanie Brooks started posting Instagram photos with Amanda with captions like, "Finally have the sister I always wanted," and "So grateful for Amanda's influence on our family." These same people who had made me feel unwelcome now treated Amanda like a beloved daughter. Emma, meanwhile, was completely excluded from these family gatherings. Nathan would attend Brooks' family events with Amanda, but Emma was never invited if Amanda was going to be there, which was always. My 8-month-old daughter was essentially erased from her father's family history because her existence was an inconvenience to his new relationship. Our financial situation became desperate. I had to sell our apartment and move into a tiny studio, with Emma sleeping on a pull-out couch while she slept in a portable crib next to me. I took 2 jobs to survive, working at the bank during the day and waitressing at a family restaurant in the evenings. The babysitter fees ate up nearly 40% of my income, but I had no choice. 6 months after our divorce was finalized, Nathan married Amanda in a lavish ceremony at the country club. I only knew about it because I saw the wedding photos posted all over social media by his family members. The entire Brooks clan was there, celebrating Nathan's new beginning, while completely ignoring the fact that he had a daughter who should have been part of his life. That first Christmas after their wedding was the loneliest day of my life. Emma was 8 months old, just starting to understand facial expressions and respond to voices. I spent the day watching her play with the few toys I could afford, while knowing that just across town, her father was celebrating the holiday with his new wife and his family, none of whom had even sent a Christmas card acknowledging Emma's existence. As I sat on the floor of our cramped studio apartment, watching Emma try to pull herself up on the coffee table, I realized that I had been completely erased from Nathan's life, and by extension, Emma had been erased from her father's family. We were truly on our own now, and everything we achieved from this point forward would be because of our own strength and determination. The next 2 years were the hardest of my life, but they were also when I discovered just how strong I could be when I had no other choice. Emma was growing into a curious, bright toddler, and I was determined to give her the best life possible despite our circumstances. I enrolled in online courses for financial planning certification while working my 2 jobs, staying up until 2 or 3 in the morning, studying after Emma went to sleep. During my lunch breaks at the bank, I started doing freelance bookkeeping for small businesses, earning an extra $50 to $75 per project. Nathan's visits with Emma became increasingly sporadic and brief. He was supposed to see her twice a month for 3 hours each time, but he frequently canceled at the last minute due to work obligations or prior commitments with Amanda. When he did show up, Amanda usually came along wearing designer outfits and treating our visits like an unwelcome chore she had to endure. Emma was learning to walk and say her first words, but Nathan was missing all of these precious milestones. She would babble mama constantly, but when she tried to say dada, Nathan would barely look up from his phone. Amanda would sit in the corner checking her Instagram and making it obvious that she'd rather be anywhere else. The incident at the playground when Emma was 2.5 years old was a turning point for me. Nathan had taken Emma to the park with Amanda, who wore a flowing white dress because she said she wanted to practice being maternal for when she and Nathan had children of their own. Emma was playing on the swings laughing and calling out, "Push me higher," when she suddenly wanted her mama. She started crying for me, reaching her little arms toward where I wasn't, and Amanda completely lost her patience. She told Nathan that Emma was too clingy and dramatic, and that spending time with her was emotionally exhausting. Nathan, instead of comforting his crying daughter, cut the visit short and brought Emma back to me after only an hour, saying Emma was having an off day. From that point on, visits became even less frequent and shorter in duration. Nathan would show up, spend an uncomfortable hour trying to entertain Emma, while Amanda checked her phone and then leave with obvious relief. Emma began to associate daddy visits with tension and disappointment. My career breakthrough came when I was promoted to loan officer at the bank. My supervisor, Margaret Chen, a senior vice president who had built her own successful career as a single mother, became my mentor and biggest supporter. She encouraged me to pursue my CPA license and helped me understand the business networking that I'd need to eventually start my own firm. During tax season, I started preparing tax returns from our tiny apartment, earning extra money while Emma napped or played quietly with her toys. I reinvested every extra dollar into business courses and professional development, building toward the day when I could open my own financial consulting practice. When Emma started preschool, the teachers would ask about her father during parent conferences and school events. Emma couldn't answer their questions because Nathan rarely visited and had never attended a single school function. While other children had both parents cheering them on during holiday performances, Emma had only me, but I made sure to clap loud enough for two people. Nathan's wedding to Amanda had been everything I'd once dreamed our wedding would be, based on the photos that dominated social media for weeks afterward. The ceremony was held at the most exclusive country club in the state, with Amanda wearing a designer gown that probably cost more than I made in 6 months. The entire Brooks family was in attendance, celebrating what Patricia called Nathan's real wedding, in a comment that mutual friends made sure to screenshot and send to me. Emma, now 3 years old, was never mentioned in any of the wedding coverage. She didn't exist in their narrative of Nathan's life and happiness. But I was building something of my own. I officially registered Lydia Financial Consulting as an LLC and landed my first real client, a small restaurant owner who needed help organizing his books and planning for expansion. Emma would play with her coloring books in my makeshift office corner while I worked on spreadsheets and tax preparations. When Emma developed pneumonia at age 4, I called Nathan from the hospital emergency room, thinking that surely his daughter's illness would bring out some parental instinct. He told me he was sorry Emma was sick, but that he and Amanda were on a non-refundable vacation in Hawaii and couldn't return early. He suggested I call him when she was feeling better and they were back in town. I spent 3 days and 2 nights in the hospital with Emma sleeping in an uncomfortable chair while she recovered, holding her hand through fever spikes and breathing treatments. Not one member of the Brooks family called to check on her condition. I realized that night, watching my brave little girl recover from her illness, that we truly had no one but each other, and that was exactly the motivation I needed to build the life we deserved. By the time Emma turned 5, she was asking direct questions about her father that broke my heart. Why doesn't Daddy live with us? Why doesn't Daddy come to my birthday parties? Does Daddy love me? I tried to give her age-appropriate answers that wouldn't destroy her self-esteem, but inside I was furious that Nathan's selfishness was already affecting her sense of worth. That was the year I decided that Nathan's absence would become our advantage. Emma and I didn't need anyone who couldn't choose us consistently and wholeheartedly. We would build something so beautiful and strong that we'd never feel the lack of people who had voluntarily removed themselves from our lives. Emma's 6th birthday marked the beginning of what I now think of as our golden years. My business was thriving beyond anything I had dared to imagine, and we were finally able to move out of our cramped living situations into a real home. Lydia Financial Consulting had grown to employ 12 people with a client base that included 3 major local businesses and dozens of smaller companies. My specialty in small business consulting and comprehensive tax services had earned me a reputation as the go-to person for entrepreneurs who wanted to build sustainable, profitable companies. We moved into a beautiful 4-bedroom house in Willowbrook Estates, a family-friendly neighborhood with tree-lined streets and excellent schools. Emma finally had her own bedroom painted lavender with white furniture and a reading nook by the window. I had a proper home office where I could meet with clients, and for the first time in years, I felt like we were living instead of just surviving. Emma enrolled at Willowbrook Academy, a private school known for its excellent academics and comprehensive arts program. She flourished in this environment, making friends easily and excelling in math and science. Her teachers described her as mature for her age, independent, and remarkably resilient. Nathan's contact with Emma continued to dwindle. His visits dropped to once a month, and he frequently canceled at the last minute due to business trips with Amanda or prior commitments that seemed to always take priority over his daughter. He missed Emma's 6th birthday party entirely, claiming he had a work conference that couldn't be rescheduled. Emma stopped asking when Daddy was coming. She stopped saving drawings and school projects to show him. She stopped including him in her bedtime prayers. At 7 years old, she had learned not to count on him for anything, which broke my heart, but also freed her from constant disappointment. Meanwhile, Emma was achieving things that should have made any father proud. She won the school science fair with a project about solar energy that she had researched and built mostly independently. I was the only parent in the audience cheering when she received her first place ribbon, but Emma beamed like she was accepting an Academy Award. She started piano lessons and discovered a natural talent for music. Her first recital was held in the school auditorium, and I sat in the front row video recording every second while Emma played a flawless rendition of Fur Elise. Nathan knew about the recital, but he never even called to ask how it went. Emma joined the soccer team and quickly became one of their most valuable players. I volunteered as team mom, organizing snacks and transportation and cheering from the sidelines at every game. When Emma scored the winning goal in the championship game, she looked directly at me in the stands and pointed, dedicating her victory to the one person who had never missed a single practice or game. My business success was opening doors I had never imagined. I was invited to speak at women's entrepreneur conferences and was featured in local business publications. The annual revenue for my company reached $800,000, allowing me to hire more employees and expand our services. I started dating again cautiously and always with Emma's feelings as my top priority. I met David Martinez, a successful architect, at a Chamber of Commerce networking event. He was kind, stable, and genuinely interested in getting to know Emma as an individual. Unlike Nathan, David remembered Emma's favorite foods, her best friends' names, and never missed an opportunity to celebrate her accomplishments. Emma adored David from their first meeting. He treated her like she was the most fascinating person he had ever met, asking about her school projects and her dreams for the future. David taught her how to play chess, helped her build elaborate Lego structures, and never once made her feel like she was interrupting adult time when she wanted to share something important. Through mutual friends, I heard troubling rumors about Nathan's life. The Brooks dealership was facing increased competition from larger automotive chains, and their old-fashioned sales methods weren't adapting well to modern customer expectations. Nathan's lifestyle with Amanda, full of expensive vacations and luxury purchases, didn't seem sustainable given the business's declining performance. Amanda's social media showed constant travel to exotic destinations, designer shopping hauls, and expensive restaurant meals. She had quit her job at the dealership after marrying Nathan, apparently expecting to live as a wealthy housewife without contributing to their household income. When Emma turned 9, she asked me directly why her father didn't seem to love her the way other dads loved their children. I sat her down and explained that some people, even parents, have difficulty showing love consistently, but that it wasn't a reflection of her worth or lovability. I told her that our small family was complete and strong, exactly as it was. That same year, I made the decision to purchase a mansion in Grandview Heights, the most exclusive neighborhood in our area. It was a bold move financially, but my business was stable and growing, and I wanted Emma to grow up knowing that we had built something extraordinary together. The 8-bedroom house sat on 2 acres of beautifully landscaped property with a swimming pool, tennis court, and enough space for Emma to have friends over whenever she wanted. It was more than we needed, but it was also a symbol of just how far we had come from that cramped studio apartment where Emma had taken her first steps. When Nathan called that spring to check in, I could hear strain in his voice. He asked about Emma's school and activities with an interest he had never shown before, and he mentioned several times that he had been thinking about spending more time with his daughter. Something in his tone told me that this sudden interest wasn't entirely motivated by parental love, and I began to suspect that Nathan's charmed life with Amanda might not be as perfect as it appeared on social media. By the time Emma turned 10, we were living a life that exceeded even my most optimistic dreams from those dark early days of single motherhood. Our new mansion in Grandview Heights was everything I had hoped for, and more a testament to what determination and hard work could accomplish. The house itself was magnificent: 8 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, a gourmet kitchen with commercial-grade appliances, and a library that Emma had claimed as her favorite room. I had converted the pool house into a teen hangout space for Emma's friends, complete with game tables, comfortable seating, and a sound system. Our 3-car garage housed my BMW X7, a Tesla Model S for eco-friendly commuting, and a classic Mercedes convertible that I had bought myself for my 35th birthday. Emma thrived in this environment, but she remained remarkably grounded despite our newfound wealth. She still volunteered with me at the local food bank every month, understanding that our good fortune came with the responsibility to help others. Her friends loved visiting our house, but Emma was just as happy playing board games in someone else's basement or riding bikes through the neighborhood. My business, now called FC Group, employed 25 people across 2 offices. We had expanded into the neighboring city and were handling financial consulting for some of the region's largest companies. Our annual revenue had reached $3.2 million, and I was seriously considering the possibility of taking the company public within the next few years. Emma's education continued to be my top priority. She had private tutors for advanced mathematics and science piano lessons with a teacher from the local conservatory, and summer programs that included coding camps, marine biology expeditions, and European art tours. Despite all these privileges, she remained humble and kind, qualities that made me prouder than any academic achievement. My relationship with David had deepened into something beautiful and permanent. He proposed on Emma's 10th birthday, presenting both of us with rings and asking not just to marry me but to officially adopt Emma and become her legal father. Emma burst into tears of joy and threw herself into David's arms, telling him she had been hoping he would become her real daddy. The wedding was planned for the following summer, a celebration that would finally give Emma the stable, loving family she had always deserved. David wanted to legally adopt Emma before the wedding, giving her his last name and ensuring that she would never again have to wonder whether she was truly wanted and loved. Meanwhile, Nathan's world was clearly falling apart, though I learned about it through business connections rather than any direct communication from him. Brooks Automotive had lost several major fleet contracts to competitors with more modern facilities and better customer service. The family business that had seemed unshakable was struggling to adapt to changing market conditions. Amanda's expensive lifestyle had continued unchanged despite the business difficulties. Her Instagram account showed the same luxury vacations, designer purchases, and expensive dining experiences that had characterized their early marriage. Nathan was apparently borrowing heavily against the business to maintain their lifestyle, a decision that was putting the entire company at risk. I was invited to join the Mayor's Business Advisory Council and was selected as the keynote speaker for a national women's business conference. A regional Forbes publication featured me in an article titled, "From Single Mom to CEO, Building Success Against All Odds." The recognition was gratifying, but more importantly, it gave me a platform to advocate for other single mothers trying to build better lives for their children. I used my success to establish a scholarship fund for single mothers pursuing business education. Every year, we awarded 5 full scholarships to women who were working to support their families while trying to advance their careers. Many of these women reminded me of myself 10 years earlier, desperate to build something better, but lacking the resources to take the first step. Then came the phone call that would change everything. It was a Thursday evening, and I was in my home office reviewing quarterly reports when Nathan called. I hadn't heard from him in over 6 months, and his voice sounded strained and artificial, like he was forcing himself to sound casual. "Hey, Lydia, long time no talk. How are you and Emma, though?" he said, but something was off about his tone. Nathan began asking detailed questions about Emma's school, her activities, and her friends, showing more interest in her daily life than he had demonstrated in the previous 10 years combined. After several minutes of uncharacteristic small talk, he finally revealed the real reason for his call. "I was thinking maybe I could come visit this weekend. Just want to spend some real quality time with Emma, catch up properly with both of you." I was immediately suspicious of his sudden desire for quality time, but I agreed to the visit for Emma's sake. She was excited but nervous when I told her Daddy was coming to visit, asking if he would finally want to see her room and hear her play piano. That Friday night, I did some research through my business connections and confirmed what I had suspected. Brooks Automotive was filing for bankruptcy within the next month. Nathan and Amanda's house was in foreclosure proceedings. Amanda had been forced to take a job at a department store in the mall, a dramatic fall from her previous life of leisure. Nathan's LinkedIn profile had been updated to show he was seeking new opportunities, which in professional terms meant he was unemployed and desperate. His sudden interest in visiting Emma wasn't motivated by paternal love, it was motivated by financial desperation. David was concerned about the visit, worried that Nathan might try to manipulate Emma or cause her emotional confusion after being absent for so long. I assured him that I could handle Nathan and that Emma deserved the opportunity to have closure with her father, whatever form that might take. Saturday morning, I watched from our living room window as an unfamiliar car pulled into our circular driveway. Instead of the sleek black Mustang Nathan had always driven, this was a beat-up Honda Civic that had seen much better days. The paint was chipping, there was a visible dent in the passenger door, and when Nathan stepped out, his appearance was as dramatically changed as his vehicle. Nathan's transformation was shocking and immediate. Gone was the confident, well-dressed man who had once charmed his way into my heart. The person walking toward my front door looked older, stressed, and defeated. His clothes were clearly from discount stores rather than the designer brands he had always favored. He had gained significant weight, and there was a desperate look in his eyes that I had never seen before. He stopped at the front entrance and actually rang the doorbell instead of walking in like he owned the place as he had done in the past. When I opened the door, his jaw dropped as he took in my appearance. I was wearing well-fitted designer jeans and a cashmere sweater with jewelry that subtly suggested success without being ostentatious. "Wow, Lydia, you look absolutely amazing," he stammered clearly, struggling to reconcile the confident, successful woman in front of him with the struggling single mother he had abandoned years earlier. I invited him in graciously but coolly, maintaining polite distance while giving him a brief tour of the house. With each room we entered, Nathan's expression became more stunned. The marble foyer with its crystal chandelier, the gourmet kitchen with professional appliances, the library with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, the home office with state-of-the-art technology equipment. "This is incredible," he kept repeating. "How did you manage all this? I mean, this must have cost millions." His questions were no longer polite conversation. They were desperate attempts to understand how I had achieved the kind of success that his family's established business was now losing. Emma greeted her father politely, but with noticeable distance. She was no longer the toddler who had cried for daddy's attention. She was a mature 10-year-old who had learned not to expect much from him. She showed him her bedroom with its custom furniture and study area, her piano in the music room, and the wall of certificates and awards she had earned in school. As Emma casually mentioned David throughout the house tour, Nathan's face grew increasingly uncomfortable. "My new daddy taught me how to play chess," she said, showing him the board David had given her. "He's helping me build a robot for the science fair next month." Each mention of David was like a small knife twist, reminding Nathan of all the father-daughter moments he had voluntarily missed. After Emma went outside to play on the swing set David had installed in our backyard, Nathan and I sat in my living room facing each other across the coffee table that cost more than his current car. The time for small talk was over, and I could see Nathan gathering his courage to reveal the real purpose of his visit. "Lydia, I need to be completely honest with you." He began, his voice shaking slightly. "Things have been really challenging for me lately. The business is struggling more than I expected, and Amanda and I are going through some rough patches. I've been doing a lot of thinking about what's really important in life." He paused, seeming to expect some response from me, but I simply waited for him to continue. "I know I haven't been the best father to Emma, and I know I made mistakes in our marriage, but I'm hoping that maybe for Emma's sake, we could work together on something." Then came the ask I had been expecting since his phone call. Nathan needed money, specifically a loan of $50,000 to save Brooks Automotive from bankruptcy. He presented it as being for Emma's future, since the dealership was technically her family legacy too. He promised that he would pay me back with interest, and that he would be a better father if I helped him through this difficult time. "Amanda doesn't understand business like you do," he said, unconsciously revealing that his marriage was in trouble. "I know you've always been smart with money, and I thought maybe we could help each other out here." I listened to his entire pitch without interrupting, watching him become increasingly desperate as he realized I wasn't immediately agreeing to his request. Finally, when he finished talking, I leaned back in my chair and gave him a response he clearly wasn't expecting. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly, Nathan," I said calmly. "You disappeared from Emma's life for years, missing birthdays, school events, and even hospital visits. You allowed your family to exclude her from gatherings and treat her like she didn't exist. You prioritized your wife's comfort over your daughter's emotional needs, and now you want me to bail you out financially. Nathan tried to interrupt with excuses and promises, but I continued. Let me share something with you about Emma that you might not know since you haven't been around to see it. She stopped asking when you were going to call after she turned 7. She stopped crying when you canceled visits after she turned 8. Last month, she told David that he's the best father she's ever had because David shows up. David remembers her recitals and soccer games. David cares about her daily life and her dreams for the future. I could see Nathan's desperation growing as he realized that his promises of being a better father weren't going to be enough to convince me. He tried a different approach, telling me about how Amanda was planning to leave him and how he was losing everything he had worked for. He begged me to remember the good times we had shared and to think about what Emma would want. Please, Lydia, he said, his voice breaking. I know I made terrible mistakes, but I'm still Emma's father. I promise I'll be better. I'll visit more often and be the dad she deserves. Just help me this once, and I'll prove to you that I can change. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at Emma pushing herself on the swing set, completely content and secure in the life we had built together. When I turned back to Nathan, I delivered the truth he needed to hear, even if it wasn't what he wanted to hear. You want to know what I learned during those years as a single mother? I asked. I learned that Emma and I don't need anyone who doesn't choose us every single day. I built this life without you, Nathan. Emma became the amazing person she is without you. We don't need your promises anymore because we've learned not to depend on them. Nathan's face crumpled as he realized that his last desperate plan wasn't going to work. But I'm still her father, he whispered. That has to count for something. Being a father is more than biology, Nathan. It's showing up consistently, remembering what matters to your child, and putting their needs above your own convenience. David has been more of a father to Emma in 2 years than you've been in 10. I told him that he could continue to visit Emma once a month if he wanted to maintain some kind of relationship with her, but that it would be on my terms and Emma's schedule. As for financial help, that ship had sailed long ago. Maybe losing everything would teach him what really mattered in life. Nathan left that afternoon in his broken-down Honda, looking smaller and more defeated than when he arrived. Emma watched him go with curiosity, but not sadness, then turned to me and asked when David was coming over for dinner. Sunday morning, I woke up in my beautiful home with David making pancakes in the kitchen, while Emma set the table chattering about her upcoming piano recital and science fair project. As I watched the two people I loved most in the world preparing breakfast together, I realized that I had never needed revenge against Nathan. Building a life so beautiful and fulfilling that his absence was irrelevant was better than any revenge I could have planned. Emma was happy, secure, and surrounded by people who chose her every single day. I had created a successful business, a loving relationship, and a future filled with possibilities. The best part wasn't that Nathan had lost everything while I had gained everything. The best part was that Emma and I had learned we were strong enough to build something extraordinary on our own, and that the people who truly belonged in our lives would never make us question our worth or fight for their attention. Sometimes the sweetest victory isn't destroying the people who hurt you. Sometimes it's building something so beautiful that their absence becomes a blessing, and by the time they realize what they lost, you're too happy to care. Emma and I learned that love is action, not words, and that the family you choose and build is often stronger than the family you're born into. So if you're watching this as someone who's been abandoned or betrayed, remember that your story doesn't end with someone else's failure to appreciate you. Your story begins when you decide to build something amazing for yourself and the people who truly deserve your love. What do you think? Have you ever had someone come back into your life asking for help after they abandoned you? How did you handle it? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Please like this video if you believe that building your own success is the best response to betrayal, and subscribe for more stories about turning life's biggest challenges into your greatest triumphs. Share this with someone who needs to remember that they're strong enough to build something beautiful on their own. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that every ending can become a new beginning if you're brave enough to write your own next chapter. I wish you love, success, and the wisdom to know that you deserve people who choose you every single day.